Hey, I'm Charlene Manyanga and welcome to my channel. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe and click the notification button to know when I post new content. Thank you so much for being here. I am continuing the series that I started last week, which is my pregnancy experience with baby number 2. Now, the last video I looked at the first trimester, and in this video we're going to be looking at trimester 2. Your second trimester is weeks 13 to 28, and in this trimester loads of fun and amazing things happen, and I will run through the differences that I noticed between my 2 pregnancies. So the first couple of weeks, I will sort of try and group loads of weeks together. So sort of weeks 13 to 17, with my first baby, this was the period where I felt great. I regained all my energy that I'd sort of lost in my first trimester. I was exercising, I was swimming. So the key thing that I noticed was getting the energy back. With Tali, the exact same week, so Tali's my daughter's, my second pregnancy, weeks 13 to 17, I was still very fatigued. I didn't get that sudden boost of energy like I did with Ty. I really was still tired. I still had the lower back pain for sort of the first trimester. So I really noticed the difference in those 2. So when I hit weeks 13 with my second baby, I was sort of expecting that energy boost. So if you are pregnant with your second child, or you're planning to have just be aware that you might not get that sudden boost if you got it in your first pregnancy, or you might. We're all different, so you never know. The next thing that sort of happened within that sort of time period is with my first born, I didn't start showing until probably weeks 18 is when I probably started to show, or weeks 18, 20. Whereas with my second pregnancy, I felt like by the end of my first trimester, I had a little something there. And it's to be expected, to be honest, because once again, it's something that they expect. Your body's gone through this before, so everything is stretched out and has done this before, so you're more likely to show earlier. So that was the second thing I noticed. In that same time period as well, weeks 13 to 17, with my second pregnancy, I actually started to feel Tali move. And so that was sort of borderline weeks, end of week 17 into 18. Like little butterflies is what I felt. And then by the time I got to sort of, 19, I definitely could feel a move. Whereas with Ty, it wasn't until much later into the second trimester. So really in those first 4 weeks, it was mainly the fact that with my second pregnancy, I was still very fatigued in comparison to regaining my energy with my first baby. I did start to show earlier, and I felt Tali move earlier as well. And then after that, we'll go into the sort of the next week. So weeks if we do 18 to 24. Now weeks 18 to 24, and it's a huge time period, but so many key things happened at this period. I would say for both my pregnancies, and this time period is when I actually felt proper cravings. So with Ty, by this time, I didn't have any nausea whatsoever, like nothing. I was good. And I was craving specifically the Belgian bun from a bakery in Hertfordshire called Simmons. Like, I loved that. And I could sit there and just demolish Belgian buns. I also craved jalapenos. I wanted jalapenos on everything. We just constantly had a jar of those sort of pickled jalapenos, and I put them in everything. And then the next thing I really craved, and I remember people at work looking at me like, what? I was craving tomatoes with salt and pepper and maybe some jalapenos on top of that. And I would just have that for lunch. Like honestly, I really enjoyed it and I craved it at the time. I think about it now and I'm thinking, wow, that's intense. But it's not too out there. I've heard of even worse cravings. And then with Tali, my second pregnancy, it was more so that I really crave Moorish things, you know, so like bread or baked goods. I still had a thing for like cakes and things like that, but really Moorishy, comforty type of food is what I wanted. I was still very much off any vegetable, broccoli, kale, all of those things. I just did not want to see or smell. I just could not deal. So those were key sort of in terms of cravings and food wise. My appetite was still not great for both at this stage, weeks 18 to 24, but I definitely had sort of some cravings kicking in. Another thing in this time period is the 20-week scan. So for those who are not from the UK, the 20-week scan, I think this is sort of standard in most countries really, that at 20 weeks they tend to do what they call an anomaly scan, and it's a very important scan. It's quite serious, and I know I was, but I know most pregnant women or people who've had babies were always anxious just before the scan, you know, because this is a scan where they check for anything that's wrong or the word abnormal, you know, so any anomalies basically. So this is the scan where they check for any anomalies, anything that they think is a bit concerning. So you go in really holding your breath, thinking, Lord, I just want everything to be fine with my baby. So they go through all of that, and then they check everything. And it's only once they go through that you all breathe a sigh of relief, the sonographer, yourself. And then if you want to find out, and depending on your hospital and trust, they can tell you the gender of the baby. For Ty, we actually, this lady was nice enough to write it on a piece of paper and put it in an envelope. And then later that night, we went out for a meal and, you know, just celebrated the fact that we were pregnant, and we're just grateful for that. And anything else was just a bonus. And then we sat there and then we opened it up ourselves and had a look. With Tali, we chose not to find out purely because at this stage, my second trimester, COVID had hit, and hospitals were not allowing you to attend this session with a partner. You just had to be you. So it was quite a lonely experience. You know, you go in quite scared and your husband or your partner is not there to be with you. So we chose not to find out and just find out when she was born. Most of these scans, they tell you to go with your bladder full. And every time I've gone, they've sort of had my bladder's been full, and then they've said, oh, actually, can you go pee? And then when I've peed, then they get a clearer picture. So you're thinking, why have I bothered, you know, hold my pee for this long? Now, at this stage, weeks 23 is when I felt my first pregnancy. This is when I felt Ty move for the first time. Now, you see the gap. I'd already felt Tali move sort of weeks 18, 19, and then almost like 4 weeks later is when I felt Ty move. So like a 4-week difference, which is crazy. So I can only imagine if you were to go have a third baby or fourth baby, how early you can start to feel baby move. So yeah, those were the key things in there. I still have those same cravings like I mentioned. With Tali, unfortunately, I still had the nausea. I was still very, 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 very tired. And I started to notice a difference in my appearance as well. Now, women with darker skin, not everyone has this, but women with darker skin are more likely to get what they call melasma, I think it's called, or mask of pregnancy. This is when your body creates melanin, extra amounts of it, and so you will look darker. They say mask of, for most women, it can just happen like sort of your face and neck. Some women it's just their neck. For some women it's just the whole body. For me, I felt like it really was like my face and neck. I really got that. I did not have this with my son. I glowed with Ty. I looked so bright and healthy. Whereas with Tali, I felt like I just looked like death, to be honest. I was, because I was so tired as well, it didn't help. So that's another key notice I started to notice during the weeks 18 to 24. And then, so weeks 18 to 24, the key things were the cravings, the scan, obviously the showing, the differences of in showing, and the mask of pregnancy, and then moving on to from sort of weeks 24 to 28. I was definitely showing for both of these. You could tell I was pregnant for both of these. The one thing that was very different between the two pregnancies was the amount of bloating I had with Tali. My second pregnancy was crazy. I think this was also due to maybe my diet, because there's some things I could eat and some things I couldn't eat, and then maybe I was having foods that just didn't help in terms of the bloating. So I really noticed that, but really everything else was still the same. I basically had the nausea with my second pregnancy throughout my whole pregnancy. It got better sort of my third trimester, but I had it throughout. So in this period, these next 4 weeks, I still had it then as well. And in comparison to Ty, my first pregnancy, my second trimester for first pregnancy was just pretty good. Just all the way through, it was pretty good. Yeah, so that was really my second trimester. So the key things, the differences between the two pregnancies definitely was showing much earlier in my second pregnancy, feeling baby move much earlier in my second pregnancy, obviously the 20-week scan which you have in both pregnancies, having cravings for sort of nourishy foods, still having the nausea and the lack of appetite, still feeling very fatigued. Now some people will say there's differences to carrying a boy and a girl, and people could argue that's what I experienced, but I still think that it just depends on what your hormones decide to do with that pregnancy. I don't think your hormones are going to behave perhaps the exact same way each time you're pregnant. So I don't know, but I think, you know, that's just a myth about you being different. But obviously, me being from an African culture, as soon as I started to get the mask of pregnancy or whatever, it was like, oh, you know, you're definitely pregnant with the girl, or whatever they believe, or you're definitely pregnant with the boy. Those phrases started to come out. Also in terms of one thing I forgot to mention was how I carried. I felt that with my son I carried quite high up just throughout, whereas my daughter I felt it was quite sort of started off just bang in the middle, and then just went down. It wasn't necessarily too high as my son was. So yeah, that's about it. So the next video I'm going to do is going to be the final video, and I'll go through my birthing story. That's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. I think the second trimester is kind of boring, to be honest. But the third trimester is sort of the fun bit. It's when the Braxton Hicks kick in. Obviously when you go into labor and you give birth, and I was blessed with both my births. So yeah, just stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the notification button. Thank you so much. Bye.